you ever find yourself in the middle of a conversation with a person and all of a sudden you realize you don't have a clue what their name is, even though they may have just told you? It can be pretty embarrassing. Memory is important. It allows us to retain skills and retrieve information. We associate people with good memory skills with being intelligent and capable. Ron White is a memory expert. And if I recall correctly, he's a 2-time national memory champion. He's an expert who speaks on and trains others techniques to help improve their memories as well. Today, you'll learn the 5 simple steps to remembering names right here on the Peak Performers Podcast.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Ron, thank you so much for joining us today. I know the audience is going to get so much out of today's episode. You know, I absolutely loved seeing you live. I guess it was about 3 years ago when you presented to our entrepreneurs group, and it was absolutely amazing. Here we are. I didn't even know who you were. You were in a corner somewhere just kind of walking around the cocktail party. We all had our name tags on, and we go into the room. You're the guy at the front of the room, and then you ask us to take our name badges off, and then go from there. What did you do?
Well, so what I did and what I do at most of my meetings is, you know, I'll walk around and it's be honest with you, I did it last night and it creeps people out, you know, like, who are you? Who is this guy? Why are you just walking around? Why are you not talking to anybody? Why are you staring at us? And I just don't have time to explain. So I just keep doing my thing. And what my thing is I'm memorizing everybody's name. I'm reading their name tags. Then I get up in front of the group, like you mentioned, and I'll say, everybody take off your name tags. They'll take off their name tags. I'll have everybody stand up. And then I will just go around the room, and I'll call off everybody's name. I'll say, Steve, you can sit down. Brian, you can sit down. Karen, you can sit down. Thor, you can sit down. Lisa, you can sit down. Matt, you can sit down. And I try to get everybody in the room. If there's under 150 people or less, I will get everybody in the room. There's over 150. I've gotten up to 300 before. But if there's under 250, 150 people, I'll memorize everybody's name in the room and have them sit down. And it's just to demonstrate the power of memory. And it's a fun demonstration. And that's what you saw me do. And that's what I did last night.
It's absolutely amazing. I mean, I'll go to a cocktail party and I'll say hello and introduce myself. I'll ask for their name. And then literally 3 seconds later, I'm like, oh my God, what's their name again? Give us some techniques and some tricks or tools that we can use to help us, because I know everybody out here suffers from something very similar.
Yeah, no, I mean, everybody has trouble remembering names. And you know what? I do too, to an extent. Nobody believes that, you know. But here's what I mean by I have trouble. If I don't practice the system specifically the way it's laid out, then my memory is not that great. It's no better than yours. It's no better than anybody listening right now. It's only when, and I'll share with you what those 5 steps are here in 10 seconds. But if I don't implement these 5 steps, I struggle with it. And, you know, I met somebody last night and they said, hey, do you remember my name? I'm like, oh my God, no, I don't remember your name. They're like, oh my gosh, you met me 4 weeks ago. How could you not remember my name? You're the memory expert. And what people don't understand is in the last 4 weeks, I've spoken at, 15 conferences and I've memorized 1,000 names. So if I wanted to remember all those 1,000 names, I would have to go through the system for all 1,000 people. It's just not practical. What is practical, though, is for the average business person to meet 2 or 3 people a day or 4 people a day and want to remember their names. And in order to do that, the 5 steps to memorize anything, whether it's a name, numbers, what you read, chapters of books, whatever, it all goes down to these 5 things. Focus, file, image, action, review. Focus, file, image, action, review. Focus, file, image, action, review. So real quickly, I'll brief over all these in 60 seconds, and then I'll flip it back to you. But focus, you have to be focused. You have to be paying attention. So let's use the analogy of remembering names. I walk into this EO meeting where I met you at, and that was the name of the group where I met you. So I walk in and I need to be focused. So I'm telling myself right when I walk in, all right, what is their names? Focus, Ron, focus. Be like a laser focus. Number 2, file. When I'm walking around that room, I need a place to store the data. For example, imagine this. Imagine your laptop and you've got 2,000 icons on your laptop and on the desktop. And every icon is a file, a picture, an image, a graphic, an Excel spreadsheet. And then I say, hey, Thor, go get me the spreadsheet on XYZ business. Well, if you've got 2,000 icons on your desktop, it's going to take you 30 minutes to find it. But if you have folders on your desktop, files on your desktop, you could get to it in maybe 5 seconds. Your brain works the same way. You need a file to store data. So you need to be focused. Number 2, when I'm walking around that room, I'm looking at people's faces. I'm picking out distinctive features on their faces. That becomes their file. Big ears, big nose, bushy eyebrows, that kind of stuff. Focus, file. So let's say you meet this guy, he has big eyebrows. Eyebrows become his file. Picture. Let's say his name is Steve. I have to have a picture for the name Steve. So I imagine a stove. Where do I store it? I store it mentally on his eyebrows. It's cooking his eyebrows. Focus, file, picture. And then the last 2 is action and review. I create a real active story of the stove cooking his eyebrows. And then as I'm walking around the room, I'm continuing to review that. Focus, file, image, action, review. And those are really, that's the Cliff Notes version there. I can definitely go deeper into this, but that's the Cliff Notes version of the process that I'm walking through as I'm at these meetings.
Okay, so let's dig into each one of these little categories here. The focus, are there some tricks or techniques that we can use in order to keep ourselves focused? Because let's face it, with everything going on nowadays, just getting people to focus is an issue.
Yeah, sure. It is. And the first one's the most simple and basic, but I do believe it has an impact to some extent, and that's good nutrition and exercise. As we get older, our brains, portions of our brain, specifically the hippocampus, will shrink with age. Our brains are declining in some areas. Some areas your brains increase with age. For example, your brain declines in age with the speed at which it processes, but it improves with age in things like reasoning or logic, or just from the experience and wisdom and stuff like that. So, but portions of your brain are declining, the speed at which it works and that kind of stuff. So there are things that you can do that are simple things to combat this, no matter what age you are. Good nutrition and exercise is a big one. Exercise is one of the few things that you can do that's actually known to stop the shrinkage of the hippocampus. Getting out there, exercising, getting that blood flowing, it's one of the few things that's known to actually just halt that. But good nutrition and exercise, there are great brain foods out there. Today, in the last 60 minutes, I have eaten 2 avocados. Avocados are great brain foods. They've got those healthy fats that your brain loves. Here's a negative side effect of things with those healthy fats like avocados. They can create heartburn, and so I'd eat 8 avocados a day if it wasn't for that. But I eat about 2 a day. Spinach, blueberries, avocado, drinking plenty of water, exercise are all great brain foods. I do jujitsu, and one of the reasons I do jujitsu is, it's so I look okay at the swimming pool, with my shirt off, but which I do look just okay. But one of the bigger reasons I do it is to keep my brain healthy, because it's so tied to my success in business as it is anyone's. So good nutrition and exercise will help your focus, but here's one that doesn't require good nutrition and exercise, and it's more of a technique. And that would be when you're walking towards somebody and you shake their hand and you say, "Hi, my name is Ron," and they say their name is Thor, and then 3 seconds later you don't know their name. It is not because you forgot their name. It's, in other words, you didn't remember it and then forget it in 3 seconds. You never heard it in the first place. You weren't focused. You weren't listening. You weren't paying attention. You're walking into this meeting, and as you're walking towards them, you're thinking, what do I think of them? What do they think of me? Have I seen them before? Have I met them before? Are they going to buy my product from me? Blah, blah, blah. And that's why you don't remember their name, because you're not listening. You're thinking about all this other stuff. You're not focused. So here is a technique that you can do to improve your focus. Walk into that meeting the next time. Don't ask yourself, what do I think of them? What do they think of me? Are they going to buy my product? Blah, blah, blah. Instead, think this one thing. What is their name? 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 And ask yourself that question as you're walking towards them. If you do that, your brain will be focused. If you're a student and you're sitting down to study for a test, or a business person going to a conference, ask yourself before you walk in that door, what is it I want to learn? What is it I want to remember from this book? Ask yourself those questions to focus your brain, so when the information is taught or read, your brain will grasp it. But those are some tips for focus.
You know, it's so funny that you say that, because that's exactly what we teach. And anything you're doing, figure out what you want, ask great questions. And I never thought about applying that to somebody's name, but it's absolutely brilliant. Thank you. That is awesome. Every peak performer that has ever lived or will live does one thing extremely well. They know how to take their ideas and execute on them. Ideas and knowledge are not power, but the ability to execute on them, that is real power. If you consider yourself a peak performer and really want to take your game to the next level and truly master the science of execution, I would like to send you some information about our upcoming event, Business Execution Summit. Simply take your phone and text the word BE Summit, one word, to 41411. And I'll send you some additional information on how to master the most important skill you will ever acquire for your life or your business. Let's talk about the file for a second. When you're coming up with these files, do you tend to pick a file that is related to the face so it's easier to remember?
Well, in regards to people, yes. So if you're wanting to memorize chapters of a book or a string of words, then it's different. But in regards to remembering names, yes, you select the face. Now, there are exceptions to the rule, but I really try to make it the face. If it's Arnold Schwarzenegger and his biceps are as big as your legs, okay, maybe do that, but it's really rare. I normally try to focus on the face, or if it's a supermodel who's got a great figure or whatever. But I really, really try to focus on the face. Another tip for that is I try to pick things that I think won't change. For example, don't select their glasses unless they're everyday glasses. If they're sunglasses, don't use that. Don't use earrings. Don't use hats. But things that aren't going to change: big nose, bushy eyebrows, wrinkles, scars, moles, hair, that kind of stuff.
Now, I've got a room of 150 people. How do I come up with 100 different things on somebody's face? Or does each one have to be unique?
Well, here's the tip on this, and this is you're not going to go from 0 to expert at remembering names without a couple months practice, and here's why. The first time I ever gave a speech on memory, I was 19 years old. I'm getting ready to be 44 now. So the first time I ever spoke for a company, I was 19 years old. There was 5 people in the room. I only called on 3 of them because I didn't think I could remember all 5 names. And I was the memory expert. I was there to sell them memory training. So now, fast forward 25 years later, I walk into the room, and if there's 300 people, I'm going to try to get them all. How did I go from 3 to 300? Here is the answer. Now, this takes effort. It's going to take a month or 2 months to get good at it, but it takes effort. You need to have predetermined pictures for common names. Predetermined pictures for common names. What I mean by that is if you walk into a room and you see somebody's name tag as Lisa, the first time you see that name, you're going to have to ask yourself, okay, Lisa, what's a picture for Lisa? The Mona Lisa. Boom, you got it. Every time you see that name now, from now on, it's going to be the Mona Lisa. You see somebody's name, their name is Mark. Well, you ask yourself, Mark, what's a picture for Mark? Marker. I'll use a Sharpie marker. Boom, you got it. Every mark's a marker now. But this is the process you have to go through for each person's name. Now, the bad news is you have to do that for every common name. The good news is once you do it for Lisa, once you do it for Mark and Steve and Brian and Tom and Karen and Wendy and Kathy, you don't have to do it for that name ever again. So it takes, here's what I would encourage everybody listening to this to do. For the next 2 to 3 weeks, 4 to 5 to 6 weeks, every time you meet somebody, turn their name into a picture. Ask yourself, what's a picture for that name? Every time you see a name on a billboard, a name on TV, turn the first name into a picture. If you'll do that for the next 4 to 6 weeks, you will have turned 100 or 200 names into a picture, and you'll get really, really good at names. If you choose not to do that, in 4 to 6 weeks, you're going to be at the same level you are right now. So you have these predetermined pictures. You use them over and over for the same names. The difference becomes where do you store it on their face? You might meet one Steve who has big ears. You're cooking his ears in the stove. You might meet another Steve who's bald, so you are cooking on the top of his head on a stove. But the picture is always a stove.
Fascinating. It's so interesting how those linkages will actually help you to get back to that particular person's name. But I saw it done, so it works. And the next one was what?
Next one is an image or a picture.
Image. Okay, yes.
Oh, wait. Well, focus, file, image. Well, yeah. You're right. We just covered the. I didn't say we were going to talk about images, but you're right. I did.
Okay.
Yeah, we flowed into that.
Is there anything else on images to mention?
Use the same image every time. As far as names go, the more vivid you can make them, the better. Here is a tip on this. Don't make the image have to do with the person. So if their name is Karen and you think, oh, my friend Karen likes to cook, I'll make every Karen cooking. I don't think you should make the images based upon the person or the personality. You should make the image based upon the name Karen. So because you're going to use it for every Karen from now on. So for a Karen, I would use carrot, like a carrot you eat. It's generic. It's for every Karen. It's not specific to one Karen. So that's the only one. So focus, file, image, action is the next one. You were correct. So action. And I'll ask you, Thor, have you ever been in a car accident?
Yes.
About how many years ago was it, approximately?
30.
30. Okay, so was it day or nighttime?
Day.
Were you driving or was somebody else?
Somebody else.
Did y'all wreck into them or did they wreck into you?
They wrecked into us.
Okay, and I'm not a cop. I'm just trying to put out a question here. But do you remember what area of town it was in?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and this was 30-something years ago.
Yes.
You can say the time of day, how it occurred, where it occurred, who was in the car. I bet if I said right now, Thor, don't spend a lot of time, but just as fast as you gave me those answers, tell me everywhere you drove last week. The ATM, the grocery store, the bank, go.
Yeah, the gym, the grocery store, the eye doctor, the mechanics, board meeting, client meeting, restaurant.
And those are some good ones. And you may have been in a car other than those times, not listed, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And you probably would have to think about it, and you might not even be able to recall every single time you were in a car. But 30 years ago, you can recall that specific incident with crystal clear. This is where we were. This is where we were driving, blah, blah, blah. It was 30 years ago. Last week, oh, yeah, I did go there, but did I go here or where? You know what I'm saying? It's not as clear.
Yeah.
What will seem – and here's the deal. If I asked you, where'd you drive 4 weeks ago, there may be 0% recall on that unless you looked at a calendar. Now, why? The answer is action and emotion. Action and emotion will cement something in your memory. That car accident has action and emotion. Driving to the bank doesn't, unless it's, I guess it's a really big check, but driving to the gym doesn't. That's why in 2 or 3 or 4 weeks that trip will fade from our memory. We might know we went to the gym, but the trip fades from our memory. Action and emotion will cement it into your memory. That's why you know where you were on September 11th, but you don't know where you were October 25th of that year. Action and emotion. So here's what that means in terms of remembering names. When you create pictures, when you create these images, you have to make them full of life and vivid and action and emotion. Because if you don't, it will. Last night, I spoke for this group of real estate investors. I memorized about 100 names in the room. I got everybody 100% correct. I missed one lady. Her name was Diane. And the reason I didn't get it was action and emotion. I'm not going to lie to you. She was a pretty woman. And it messed me up. When she said her name, she said Diane, I'm like, all I kept thinking was, wow, she's pretty. And I did not create the action and emotion. So when I had everybody stand up, I went through and I repeated everybody's name, and I got to her. I had no idea what her name was. If you don't make the action and emotion strong, even if you're a memory expert, you're not going to remember it. So see it, hear it, smell it, touch it, taste it, feel it. If it's carrots, imagine you're tasting the carrots. If it's a fire, imagine you're feeling the flames from a fire. It sounds silly, but it's not. It really works.
You know, it's funny. A few years ago, I got divorced and I started dating, and I found myself going out, and I had like 4 Lisas in my phone, and I had to put notes in there. It's like, Lisa, right. The one by the big tree. I met her. So I can see how that's the more emotion, the more details that you can put around it and bring that to life. Very good. Love it. All right, review.
And one step on this action thing, and actually this will flow into review. So I'll put it in the review. So let's talk about review.
Okay.
Review is last night I was at my meeting, and I walked up to this woman, and she covered up her name tag. And I was like, hey, she said, do you remember my name? I said, no, I don't. She goes, oh my God, you met me 4 weeks ago. You're the memory expert. Why didn't you remember my name? And I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, I don't have time for this. I'm trying to memorize 100 names. But here's the truth. Why did I not remember her name if I'm the memory expert and I'm teaching people how to remember names? The answer, review. When I go to a conference, I'll memorize 100 names. I might memorize 2 or 3 or 4 or 500 names in a week. It is not practical for me to review 2,000 names a month, 25,000 names a year. It's not useful to me. It's not practical to me. So I don't. When I memorize 100 names at a conference, it's a demonstration. When I leave that conference, I am not reviewing at all. Why? Because I'm not going to see these people for the most part again, and it's just not practical. However, I live in the downtown Fort Worth area. Well, I live in downtown Fort Worth. So in downtown, I know I'm going to see these people again. So I will walk through the process, focus, file, image, action. And then when I get to review, I do review. So if I'm walking by a building today, I'll look in that restaurant and I'll think, who did I meet in there last week? Oh, yeah, I met this guy. This was his picture. This was his file. This was his action. And I'm reviewing. Or who did I meet today? Or who did I meet yesterday? I'm always reviewing. If you don't review, even if you're a 2-time USA memory champion, you're not going to remember the woman you met 4 weeks ago. But here's the deal. You've got to, if you're like me and you're memorizing 500 names a week, give yourself the freedom to not review. But for the ones you want to remember, you need to ask yourself, who did I meet today? Who did I meet yesterday? Who did I meet in that restaurant last week? Who did I meet over there? And here's a tip for review. This is taking it to the next level, but if you do this, you will get freakishly good. Get yourself a notepad or a book, or if you want to do it online on your computer, that's fine. I use simple technology. I got a notepad and a book, and in that book, I wrote who I met. And let's use your example. Lisa, met her by the tree, whatever. And so I would write that, where I met her, or some detail about that kind of brings up the image of where we met in our brain. But then I take it one step further. I say distinctive feature, eyes, painting the Mona Lisa in her eyes. And then I'll create this book. And then once a month, I might pick up that book and review the book. But I'm not just reviewing where I met them. I'm also reviewing the distinctive feature on their face, because that's so important. That distinctive feature is their file. Why? Because when you see these people in 3 weeks, the normal thought process is, oh, I met this person before. Oh my gosh, what's their name? That's the normal thought process. And then it freezes up our brain and we can't remember it. The new thought process you're going to have is, Oh, I met this person before. What was their distinctive feature? Oh, yeah, it was her eyes. Oh, what was in her eyes? The Mona Lisa. Hey, Lisa, how you doing? So when you take these notes, make sure that you are reviewing you're putting in the distinctive feature in there. And last thing I'll say about this, if you wanted to take it to the next level, create yourself a PowerPoint and with people you met. And in this day and age with technology, you can Google a person's name and you can get their Facebook picture, their Twitter picture, their LinkedIn picture. It's easy to get pictures of people in this day and age. So you could Google their name, get their picture, add them to the PowerPoint, put their name on the PowerPoint slide, have their picture and their name underneath it, and then review that PowerPoint once a month, and you would get crazy good at names. But when you're reviewing it in the PowerPoint, you need to be focusing on the distinctive features on their faces and seeing the pictures, their name turned into a picture. But that's the next highest level.
Thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you found today's show valuable. If you would like to receive these shows automatically to your phone or to your computer, simply go to iTunes and subscribe. After listening to several of the shows, if you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this helps us reach additional people and spread the message. If you're truly committed to taking your life to the next level and doing whatever it takes to become a peak performer, but something's holding you back, something is blocking your way, and you just can't seem to figure out what it is, send me an email to info@thorconklin.com, and I'd be more than happy to get on the phone with you. We'll schedule a 15-minute discovery call. No obligation, no cost. I absolutely love to hear from the listeners, and if there's something I can do to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, if you found something of great interest in today's show and you want to share that with your friends and family, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin, click on the episode, hit the share button, and share it on your page. You can follow me at Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. We're constantly adding new free resources, discussing additional tricks, tips, tools, and strategies on how to be a peak performer. Remember, I try to keep these episodes short so you can listen to them during dot time, doing other things, commuting, driving, walking, working out. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day.
And that was Ron White, one of the top memory experts in the world. Be sure to tune in for part 2, where Ron and Thor discuss assigning emotion to a memory. That's next on the Peak Performers Podcast. See you at the top.